So first of all, I'd just like to say that I'm really pleased and proud to be here, you know, amongst some pretty inspiring, hardcore hackers. And I feel, I've got to be honest, I feel a bit of a fraud. To be honest, I'm a fusty old middle-aged academic, amongst a bunch of super cool hacking youngsters. So I don't know. I think Darren encouraged heckling in his talk, and I'm going to say, please be nice to me instead, and hope that works. These are auto flicking through. I don't know why we're doing that. I'll stop that. About me, I'm David Day. I'm an academic here at Shepherd University, and I teach information system security and forensics here. I'm also a special working with the National Crime Agency with their national cybercrime unit, so I help out with those guys too. So that's quite a recent thing. So I've got a fancy NCA badge, but I'm not quite sure what powers that gives me or what I can do with it. Maybe I can nick you for using Windows XP, or perhaps nab you for not patching or updating your antivirus. But other than that, I have no idea what I'm supposed to do with it, other than show it to people at talks, I guess. I'm a consultant as well. I do network intrusion detection primarily, a bit of systems penetration testing, but mainly network intrusion detection stuff. So drop network intrusion detection boxes into organisations and sniff traffic, and then write reports to tell them about bad stuff that's going on in their network. Surprising what I find, actually, which I can't tell you about, unfortunately, because of my NDAs and the rest of it. But it's atrocious, really, how large retail organisations manage their security. I'll leave it at that. Okay, so just a little bit of chit-chat, just a little bit of a sort of a human interest story maybe, so don't worry, there's only too much of that. I'll stop the main talk in a bit. But it's just a sort of a bit of a journey of how I started off from doing a speech at the Association of Chief Police Officers Cybercrime conference, through to trying to help the NCA work out ways of disrupting GoZeus, Game Over Zeus. And I guess you guys probably have heard about this quite a bit in the media, about the operations the collaborative operations between the FBI, the NCA, and the rest of it, and what they did to try to disrupt Game Over Zeus. And there's a limit. I checked with the NCA guys to see how much I could tell, and it's probably quite a lot more than I expected them to allow me to do. Basically anything's in the public domain already, right, I can talk about. So that limits me a bit, but we'll have a chat about that. So the way all this started for me was, in 2011, I did this talk at the Association of Chief Police Officers Cybercrime Conference, and I did a demo. It's a demo on how hacking tools have turned mainstream hacking, they've moved it slightly out of the province of just being the uber technical, super sharp geek, and into the realms of sort of like your not so uber technical guy who's, he's a script kiddie, sat in his bedroom and just using tools to destroy things. So I was talking about having the seriousness of that, and that we're no longer in a situation where it's only the gifted that can cause damage, and now that can be done with it's been said already, 12, 13-year-olds could use these tools to cause some trouble. And during the talk, what I did was I just used a bunch of, it wasn't Kali then, it was Backtrack, just a bunch of Backtrack tools to Nmap and Nessus and Metasploit, and some other stuff I can't remember now, to compromise the system. And I did that. I just did a demo of that, and subverted the system. it was my system, I hasten to add. It wasn't like an actual real victim system, it was my own system, because I figured that actually hacking a live victim system in front of 350 law enforcement officers probably wouldn't have been a particularly good idea. So that happened, and then I got a phone call about a week later asking me to go down and see them in London at the Police Central Crime Unit. And they said there's a case we're working on which I think you might be interested in. Can you come down and see us and have a chat to us? I thought, oh, okay, that sounds like fun. So I jumped on the train and I went down to see them. And when I got there, the guy I met was Detective Inspector Stuart Garrick. He's now actually one of my supervisors in the NCA as a special. So I've got to know him quite well. He's a really cool bloke actually. But when I met him for the first time, the first thing he said to me was, I'd just like to really apologise for the things I said about Sheffield. And actually that didn't make sense to me. You guys may have clocked on what he means by that, but that didn't make sense to me at the time. But you probably recall that, and this was alluded to by Steve Armstrong earlier on, that there was a telephone conversation that was intercepted by Anonymous between New Scotland Yard and the FBI, and that phone call got recorded, and it got released to the media, and there's quite a lot of attention about it. And so I'm going to play that to you now, and you'll realise why you felt the need to apologise to me.
Enter your passcode followed by the pound key or *0 to speak with an operator. The passcode has been confirmed. Please wait while you are joined to the conference. Hello?
Victor?
Yeah, hello. Sure, yeah.
Hey, Bruce.
Bruce, how you doing?
Alright. I'm not sure if we're the only two on right now or not.
Okay, so we know that they're not the only two on. Otherwise we wouldn't be listening to this conversation right now. So I've edited most of it, but in a few seconds you'll hear him actually giving the reasons why I felt the need to apologise, which I think that's not right. Let's go back. Right here maybe.
Please wait while you are joined to the conference.
Sorry, you're going to have to go back through that again.
Hello?
Victor?
Yeah, hello. Sure, yeah.
Hey, Bruce.
Bruce, how you doing?
Alright. I'm not sure if we're the only two on right now or not.
Sorry, I edited a bit. And then I have to pause.
Remember Sheffield? I think moved to mid-Scotland. To Connolly. Oh yeah, I'm afraid so. It's not exactly a duel with England's crown. Okay. But there you go.
Well, there's a big university up there, right?
Alright.
Isn't there a big university up there?
Yeah, and Sheffield Uni is quite big. It's a huge shopping centre as well, but I think that's about it.
Is that it?
Is that the ball ring? Where's that place in Sheffield, the ball ring? Or there's a big round house in the middle of it, which sort of got an upstairs and a downstairs. It was quite exciting in the 1970s.
Okay, so that's as much as I've got of that. So there's a couple of things that I did point out to him afterwards, and the first one is that Sheffield isn't Birmingham. And the next one actually is that there is a big university in Sheffield. In fact, the largest university in Sheffield is Sheffield Hallam University, and not Sheffield University. In fact, actually, Sheffield Hallam, while I'm blowing its trumpet, is it's the second largest university for student numbers in the country, and bigger is better, and that's all I'm going to say about that. So that was fun. So while I was down there, I sort of geeked out with their guys for a while, and they told me that they said that there's this group called, I knew about them obviously, they told me this group called LulzSec, and they've been up to things which they shouldn't do, and we're examining some evidence and trying to find out if we can find out what's been cracking off. Do you want to help? it's kind of like it's something I couldn't resist, really. It's like a puzzle I wanted to get involved in, so I said yeah. And I don't think they really sort of trusted, me to they didn't really know sort of how if I was any good technically. So I kind of had this really bizarre experience where I had to geek out with their technical guys for a while, and they were asking lots of questions, and I was answering them. It felt like an interview, in fairness, and I guess that's probably what it was, like an informal interview. But I guess I did okay, because about a week later they couriered up my learned friend Mustafa Al-Bassam's hard drive and asked me to take a look at that. So I did, and I find quite a bit of interesting stuff on there, which the police actually missed, and that was my primary focus, of course, was to try and find something which the police hadn't. And in fact, they actually said to me, I think the person who did the forensic analysis on the drive within the police said to me, "Don't find anything that I haven't found." Right? Okay, there's the challenge. Right, there's a challenge. So I did find stuff that they didn't find, and I found stuff in system volume information folders. So those of you that know about, this is like quite common knowledge to most people in forensics, but I'm going back a while. It was some while ago, and maybe it wasn't quite so common knowledge then. But for those of you that don't know what system volume information folders are, it's the place where when your machine goes to put a restore point, that's the place where it's stored, right? So when you want to wind back your system when something's cocked up, or you've been playing with some software and it hasn't worked out, and or you've been infected with malware, you want to roll back to a previous point, so you go back to your system restore point. But those system restore points, they can be mounted, like an image within their own right. And that's what I did. I mounted one. I basically went through a bunch of them. There's maybe, I think it was probably about 12 system restore points on there. I can't remember, to be honest. And I went back through and had a look at all of them. And as a result of that, I found some stuff, some internet cookies that hadn't been found, websites that had been visited that hadn't been spotted before. And probably, I found some encrypted files as well, which we never got decrypted. We tried that, it didn't work out. I've gone direct to the source and asked what they are, that didn't work out either. And also I found a Bitcoin wallet, that was interesting, which the police hadn't found, so I thought, okay, let's have a look at this then. So I extracted it and installed it onto my system and started resyncing it back with Bitcoin network, and waited. And then I saw, a value of Bitcoins going into the Bitcoin wallet. And it occurred to me, a couple of things occurred to me. The first one occurred to me, the police hadn't found this, right, because it wasn't in their report, so they didn't know it was there. The second thing occurred to me was that Mustafa hadn't told the police that he had a Bitcoin wallet, which meant that nobody at that point knew that I had that Bitcoin wallet, apart from me, right? So you know how Bitcoin works, okay? So when you're going through the process of synchronizing, and so you're not actually seeing things in real time, you're seeing things how they were, okay? So I'm looking at the Bitcoins, and at one point, it dawns on me there's enough Bitcoins in there at today's market value for me to get a small extension on my house. And I'm thinking, I need to have a discussion with my wife about this, seriously. But I'm a law-abiding citizen, so of course I couldn't have gone down that path. And as it transpired, as time elapsed and the wallet started to come to date with the date in which I was looking at it, the Bitcoin wallet, the Bitcoins were gone. They were transferred into other accounts, and they disappeared from that particular wallet. So that temptation was removed from me, so I didn't have to worry too much about that.
That's your story.
Yeah, that's right. Well, there's one other person in this room that knows that I couldn't have got those Bitcoins, so I've got there's two of us that can substantiate that story. I did, so the interesting thing was the Bitcoins were actually transferred out like pretty close to the point where the laptop was seized. So I've often had a few questions about that, and I guess they're going to remain unanswered as well. So I did, out of interest, I did chase the transactions a little bit, but it got tiresome, and I knew I thought maybe some tumbling had taken place and so forth. And I got a little bit disillusioned with that, so I never actually did find out in time. I've got an idea what they may have gone, but I'm not entirely sure. There is one person that knows in this room, but I don't think he's going to be telling. Okay, so that got some media attention at the time when that happened. And when the LulzSec members went to trial, there was some media attention in that. And off the back of that media attention, I had the opportunity to meet with Mustafa, and we met in this kind of, it's like a weird subterranean underground studio that we met in, and I got to ask him about what it was like to be in LulzSec, and he got to ask me what it was like to intrusively pry on his hard drive. But it was fun, and that's the studio there, and you see the two chairs there. And when I first went in, right, so Mustafa was tucked away around the back. I wasn't allowed to meet him until the point where the cameras were rolling. They wanted us to have an initial reaction when we first met. So he was like sat in a different area of the studio, so I couldn't see. So I walked in, and the first thing I did is I sat down. It's a bit washed out, but I sat down on that chair there, one with the arms, right? Well, that's comfy. Sat down. And I was told, no, you can't sit there. That's Mustafa's chair. Oh no, well, why is that? He got here first. So I figured who the star was pretty early on. So that's that really. I'm not going to talk any more about that. That's just a bit of general chit chat. I thought it was on the off chance somebody might be interested. So what I do want to talk about is methods of malicious hacking. I'm at a hacking conference. It'd be a silly thing not to talk about that, wouldn't it really? So I'm going to talk about very little, actually, about systems, web application servers, network infrastructure. I'm going to gloss over that pretty much because the reason for that is because loads of people have talked about that already, and because loads of people are going to talk about it afterwards and probably do a lot better job of it than I would as well. So I'm going to leave that to others. I'll talk a little bit about people, about social engineering, phishing, and I'm going to particularly talk about GoZeus as a case example, because obviously I've had some interaction with that, with the work that I've done with the NCA. So I'm going to talk about how it's spread, how it works, a little bit how we disrupted it. I say we, okay, maybe I helped a bit. Yeah, I'm going to take a tiny bit of it. And what we can do to try and prevent this kind of thing happening. Well, we can't prevent it, but what we can do to try and mitigate it a little bit, or slow it down, or maybe give that kind of malware a nosebleed, just to buy us a bit of time. So a quick bit on why applications are vulnerable. Well, I think applications are vulnerable. This is just my take on it, right? There's no sort of, I'm citing nobody other than myself on this. Application developers are under pressure. Okay, so there's that whole I don't want to lose my job thing. And I've experienced this in a previous life. I was an application developer. I'm going back 20 years, but I did it, right? And that didn't work out too well for me. And the reason why it didn't work out too well for me is because, you know, I wanted to write software that worked. And it dawned on me that actually in a small consultancy company, that's not a good idea. Because if you want to write software, well, it is, but it isn't if you want to keep your job. If you want to write software that works, then that takes time. Okay? And this particular organisation which I worked for, it didn't work like that. The way they wanted to do it was write the software with the minimum of functionality. Right? Just get it to kind of basically a little bit do what it's supposed to do. Once it's done that, we'll ship it. Okay? It's bound to go wrong. We know that because we haven't given you time or resources to do it properly. But when it goes wrong, we'll get you back in there fixing it, and we'll charge money for that. And then when they say to us, well, why are you charging money for this when that should have been done in the first place? We'll say, aha. And then we'll take apart the scope and show them that actually that isn't what was requested. So, it's a bad way of doing business, to be honest with you. And the company's not there now, and I'm hardly surprised. But there's a lot of this that goes on. I talk to people now, there's a lot of this that goes on. And so people are under pressure, to keep their jobs, to cut the code fast. And if you're going to cut corners, quite often, what happens with many developers is they cut corners in terms of security and robustness and tolerance. The other side of this is I've got some friends who are C developers, consultants, and I'm told by them that if they miss deadlines, certain contracts which they have state that if they don't get the software developed within the period of the time that they're given, that they get fined. So the amount of money they get decreases. They'll have money taken off them for each day they are beyond the deadline of when this piece of software is meant to be produced. So if you're a consultant and you're making this money and you think to yourself, well, you know what, it pretty much works okay, right? I need probably another 3 or 4 days to get the security right, but I'm on the deadline. What do I do? Do I do the right thing? I mean, you tell the company, but maybe they're not interested. I don't know. Do you do the right thing and make it secure for the next 3 days, or do you make an extra grand and let it go at that point? Well, it depends on your ethics, doesn't it? But I imagine not everybody has ideal ethics. Scope for functionality over security, right? So coders will do some, not obviously not us guys, because we're all really ethical guys and like to do things properly, but some may scope it simply for what they're asked to do. So we're asked to do A, B, and C. It does A, B, and C. Really, we ought to check to make sure it's security conscious in terms of X, Y, and Z. But that that doesn't get done. So that wasn't scoped. I wasn't asked to do that. And I used to work for a company. After I moved on from my other place, I did another programming job, and within that environment they had it was kind of a half joking, half real motto, and the motto was, if it compiles, ship it. I genuinely believe that happened actually more often than it should have. So the other part of it is people are lacking experience and understanding, right? So they're just not very good at doing their job. Okay, so this can happen quite a lot. I think one of the problems is when you look at things like JSP and PHP, they're such beautiful high-level languages and they're so quick to learn and understand, and you can make stuff functional so quickly with them because it's just not that difficult, is it? And as a result of that, functional code can be written and generated pretty quickly. So you've got guys who are going in as placement students or interns, and they're generating web systems with all the bells and whistles on that look great, and bosses are thinking, it's wonderful, look what it does, it's great. But they don't have the experience or understanding to realise that they're actually missing a load of really important testing that they should be doing, and secure coding methods. They don't know how to do them, or maybe they're not even aware of them in some instances. So things go wrong, right? So there's a low expertise needed to write functional code, but a higher expertise needed to actually ensure that it's safe and stable. And there's a lot of focus on bells and whistles, particularly with newbies, which can get organisations into trouble. But that's my magnanimous view of poor application developers. That's me trying to give them an excuse, right? So I'm being courteous there. Now, in the run-up to this event, I did spend quite a bit of time trying to persuade Mustafa to actually do a talk for us and basically do a talk about how LulzSec did the hacks that they did, right? So the methods that they used to penetrate these systems and to get hold of the data which they got hold of. And although I spent quite a bit of time trying to persuade him, that didn't work out. He decided not to in the end. But what he did do is he gave me his view on the reasons for how those attacks occurred, and gave perhaps a less magnanimous view of web application developers. And so this is I have, with his permission, right, I've done a screenshot of the DM tweet session that we had on the matter, and this is it. Okay, so yeah, it's like I'm pretty magnanimous about it, but not everybody feels the same. And you know what? I think there's a point to be said there. I think it actually has a reasonable point. Is that enough characters to say flipping? Maybe. Okay, so that's systems, and that's why I think systems are quite vulnerable, and some of the things that we need to think. But this is still about people, right? So I haven't talked about anything technical, and I'm probably not going to go too technical. Maybe a little bit technical with GoZeus, but I'll keep it to a limit. But this is still about people, right? So systems are vulnerable because of people. Systems are vulnerable because of people not doing their jobs properly, or because that they're idle, or because that they're greedy, or whatever the reasons are, right? They're issues with people. And also, in terms of how exploits can occur, there are also issues with people. It all boils down to people ultimately, right? About why things don't work out right. So I'm going to talk a little bit about social engineering now, because when you think about why breaches occur, the bulk of them, I don't know how the figures for it, okay, I couldn't find any stats to reference or cite on this. As an academic, it was painful, right, but I couldn't find any. That they actually stipulated that the majority of breaches occur initially because of some kind of social engineering or phishing, but my gut instinct is they are. Right? So there we go. There's a quote from socialengineering.org, which is a pretty good website actually. If you guys should check that out, it's worth having a look at. Any act that influences a person to take an action that may or may not be in their best interest. Okay, so that's interesting. So it's not just based. It's not only saying that it's the actions that aren't in their best interest. It's stipulating any action that you persuade a person to take, whether it's in their best interest or not, as can be a result of social engineering. And this happens to us all the time, doesn't it? Right? Sales guys do this to us all the time, okay? So every time you see an advert on TV and you decide to go out and buy a product, it's a form of social engineering, in my view. I've got a group of mates that I go to the pub with, and one of them is an IT sales guy, okay? So we're all from different backgrounds. I'm probably the only person that's like, techie, and then, he's this IT sales guy. And sometimes he'll say something technical. And it will be, he's a sales guy, right? So you know already, don't you, that it's going to be an absolute bunker. And it is, right? So I say, actually, no, AD, no, you're wrong about that. Actually, it works like this. Okay? So it might be, I don't know, maybe we're talking about DNS or sinkholing or something. And then the room will look at me for a second or two, right? And then they'll look back at him. And I just know, right, even though this is my job, right, and I'm a technical guy, mostly, that they believe him, because he's a sales guy and he delivers his rubbish with such charisma that people buy into it. Okay, so it's social engineering. That's what he's doing. He socially engineers people to believe rubbish. And socially engineering people to believe rubbish happens all the time, isn't it? Who does that? I'll give a book to somebody who tells me who socially engineers us to believe rubbish regularly. Politicians. The book is yours, mate. The book is yours. There you go. Our politicians. Yeah, you see, I don't always go with the politically correct answers, but yeah, they do, and they say time and time again give promises, and they don't meet match up to their promises, and we continue to believe them because of how sharply they address and how brilliantly they deliver their messages. Lots of hand movements on that. I think this is how. You believe me if I say it like this, you believe me. Okay, so we're programmed in a certain way, like social interactions with, everybody likes to be liked, that's a problem as well. Nobody likes to say no to people, it's more difficult, sometimes for certain people it's extremely difficult to say no. So, like I said, I think social engineering is, I haven't got statistics, but is responsible for many initial breaches. Passwords, account numbers, private keys, personal information, etc. All of this stuff is what social engineers are trying to get out of us on a technical, from an IT perspective, to try and help breach our systems. And I think a lot of this is about the psychology of persuasion, right? So there's sort of four key, and I'm moving on to phishing, you can probably gather at the moment, there's four key areas where we're trying to be, we're convinced to give away information which is important to us. We can have our trust exploited, certain trust that we have in something can be exploited. Our interests can be piqued, something that we're particularly interested in that we might want to pursue, and we end up divulging information as a result of that. If our primal fears are invoked, fear or anxiety, that can make us make a reaction without thinking first. Okay, so the whole fear and anxiety thing, I think, is one of the most regulated. Because it can cause you to, you make the reaction before your brain processes the information and realises that by making that action, you're actually doing something pretty dumb. Or offering a reward. So inherently, people are pretty greedy. So if they think there may be a quick win there for them, they can fall for this. And you know what? Because I don't know, but there'll be a percentage of you right now that are thinking, I'm not, because I'm an expert, I'm not going to fall for this stuff because I'm an expert. But you know what? It's really, really easy to do. I mean, what about Twitter, for instance? All of those links and photos that are on Twitter. Are you telling me you never click on any of them? Not one ever, right? I find that pretty hard to believe. Although I'm sure maybe some of you don't. To expand on this a bit, so in terms of trust, accounts that have been hijacked, Facebook, Twitter, email, corporate client. If an account's been hijacked and it's an account and it's somebody you know and that person then contacts you, you're more likely to believe them or trust them, okay? So I'm not like, maybe most of the people in this room, maybe less so, okay? But when I say, if I use the term we, what I mean is the general population, perhaps rather than the we that's in this room. But if an account has been compromised and that account is being used to send you an email or maybe... So a recent example, for instance, I received a tweet from that Cambridge Festival, Science Festival that they had. Did any of the others of you receive a tweet from Cambridge Science Festival? A compromised tweet? No? Okay. So a compromised tweet turned up and it said something like, I bet this was you. This sounds just like you. It was something like that and it had a link, right? Guess, so you know what, I clicked it, all right, sorry, but I did. And I clicked it and I didn't fall for the subsequent bit, which is basically a screen that came up, that looked exactly like Twitter, saying I'd been signed out to Twitter and I needed to sign back in again. Right, yeah, okay, that's going to happen, right? But a lot of people did, because there was a bunch of, because it then started to sort of snowball, and a bunch of tweets were coming in which shouldn't have been, and accounts got compromised. So it's very easy to do, right? So I didn't fall for that, but you know what? Those tweets were sent out. So I went on to the online festivals, a Twitter account had a look, right? I sort of clicked on the thing and had a look, and there was like thousands and thousands of people that had received the same tweet. So all right, I didn't fall for it, but if they just get 1%, there's probably like 100, or maybe close to, that would have could have fallen for that. And then I actually emailed them and bothered them severely for allowing their account to be compromised. And they didn't reply. And then I contacted the news. I thought, well, I'm going to grass these guys up, right? Because they really should. They should tweet now and apologise to everybody for this cock up, but they never did. And I was gonna grass them up to the media. I don't know how to do it. I felt bad about doing that. Maybe I should have done. So it's very easy for us to be fooled in that way if we receive something from somebody we know and we think, oh, it's fine. But as we all know, accounts can be compromised. Emails can be sent from compromised machines by looking through the contact list and sending an email from that. Fear and anxiety. So we've seen this before with bank accounts, haven't we? They say something's wrong with your bank account. I don't know, maybe you need to reaffirm your username and password and all the rest of it. And all right, it's not likely to get one of us, but it does get people because people get scared. They think, oh no, my bank account's something's wrong. HM revenue and customs, the ultimate fear-mongering email, isn't it? We've done an investigation, we've realised you've not paid enough tax. Especially if you're a self-employed consultant, right? So then you're thinking, geez, really? Fear, right? You click the link, you're in trouble. Confirmation of an online payment. Sometimes, it can just be a case of a coincidence, can't it? Right? So this happened to me the other day, about a week ago, and I received this email saying from it was a genuine one. What is it? WorldPay Bank, is it something? And they said I made confirming my payment of $11.99 for, and it didn't actually give a description of the product, of course. And I thought, I bought something just recently that cost around about, I couldn't remember exactly how much it was, but it was like maybe 2 weeks earlier I bought it, and I know the money had gone out for it, and I thought, they double charged me. Swines have double charged me. And I was tempted, but I didn't. And I phoned them up, and they said, oh no, you didn't say that, that's not right. Swines, Google, known scam. Okay. So it's very easy done. So the reward thing, the opposite of that, tax refund. You've paid too much tax, to earn a load of money back, click here to continue the process. And the human interest stories, this is the peaking of the interest thing, so office salaries. So you get an email from somebody within your organisation that says they've got a PDF of everybody's salaries, or a document with everybody's salaries on. Everyone's curious about everybody else earns. In my case, there was a company I worked at where we did find out what everybody's salaries were, and we did email a document out, but that was genuine, actually. And then we sent it to certain people. And actually the guy I worked with was doing exactly the same job as me and earned more money. I was really upset about it. That's another story. Fake news sites, you've seen this stuff before. So there's the tax refund confirmation one. So it all looks very legitimate and tells you you've got a tax refund. I would hope that nobody in this room would fall for that, but it's very tempting, isn't it? For perhaps somebody who's less technically savvy or less on the case than ourselves may well click on that, which would take you to, actually that's a pretty poor one, isn't it? There's probably better examples of that. That's actually taken from HM Revenue and Customs' own website. At least I hope it was their website. So how many of you know about this one? I've read about this one, Syrian Electronic Army hacking forms. Yeah, show of hands, how many? Okay, it's quite nuts, you can hear about it again. I think these guys, right, I can't condone what they're doing, right, because it's wrong, it's illegal, and I don't know what their political motivations are, and I'm not interested in that or want to be interested in it. But you have to say, from a social engineering point of view, they're flipping good. The way they manipulate information out of people and then use it is astoundingly good. So basically what happened, in terms of the details of it, is that a senior executive at Forbes received a call from an assistant quite early in the morning, 6:15 a.m. And the assistant said, "It's snowing outside, I'm not coming to work." Okay. So she's awake now at 6:15 a.m, which is never a good time to try and make any decisions, really. I don't know about you guys, but I'm not going to be making decisions at 6:15 a.m. in the morning. And because she was awake, she noticed on her BlackBerry there was an email from a supposed reporter at Vice Media asking for a comment on a Reuters news story. And at that particular point in time was where Reuters was about to be sold. So they were expecting a story on this. Okay, so this wasn't a particular surprise to see this link. And we're at issue, opened her iPad, logged into her email via the Forbes web mail, and clicked on the link. And it was a usual scenario. The link's open a window asking for email credentials. She said, okay, session's timed out. Type my emails in again. Details in again. Do you know what? I genuinely, honestly think, even at 4 a.m. I wouldn't have fallen for that, but it happens. Entered them in, and obviously they had access to her email account. So they went into her email account and emailed all the other employees with the same story and the same issues. And quite a lot of them fell for it, and some of the people that fell for it had super user rights, had editing, publishing rights. And so they then got hold of a bunch of other credentials, and they used these. They used one of them from somebody who's a super user on WordPress to access WordPress and to change the email account for where a forgotten password should come through to, and they changed that to an email which they could access, and then subverted the system and edited. Put different stories up there to try and adjust how the market reacted, and caused all manner of pain through WordPress. They subsequently closed that down, right? They fixed the gaps in this and they changed people's passwords and all the rest of it. But they forgot how they did this. How they managed to cock up like this, I don't know. But they didn't change the reset password. So as soon as it was all changed, okay, I forgot password again. They got a password again, the new one. And just carried on causing trouble. So they also got access to a bunch of social media accounts, thanks to the fantastic password reuse problem, and OAuth as well. So that when you log in via one system, you can access a bunch of others as well. So they got hold of a load of stuff and a load of access just from that one initial cock-up. And it took days for them to try and close this down. Each time they thought they'd done it, they discovered something else that had been compromised off the back of it. And this isn't technical. There's no massive technical. There's no cross-site scripting here. No Stack Overflows incurred. No heap spraying. This is just exploiting people's dumbness to its full potential. And the full story's there. I don't know if you get access to these slides, but if you do, I'll have a look at that. It's quite interesting. You know what? I'm going to have to speed up. There's one of the things which particularly concerns me in some ways, I guess, is the use of tools. that make social engineering a heck of a lot easier. Any of you used the social engineering toolkit? Yeah? Third, perhaps? Okay, so it's written by David Kennedy, or Relic, and it's open source, written in Python, it's part of the Kali Linux suite, and it allows for the automation of phishing scams. So you can point it to a website, clone it, and the popular one is Gmail. Clone Gmail, you can send a URL to somebody and just wait for the credentials to be entered. When they're entered, they get entered into the server, which is sat on Kali Linux, and you can see them being entered, and you can harvest their information that way. It also integrates with Metasploit to create executable payloads for execution by the victim. Payloads can be encoded rather, to help avoid antivirus detection. And again, you can replicate web content, and you can create things like a digital signature pop-up. In fact, that's one of the examples on the site. A digital signature pop-up which says it's from Microsoft or whatever, so the victim goes, oh, okay, yeah, I agree to that, so, I'm okay, I trust Microsoft, so that's fine, and Google, because we all trust Microsoft and Google, right? Click on that, and then it installs using Metasploit to install to cause maybe a reverse shell or whatever payload. In fact, you can use AutoPwn to get it to try them all until one of them works. So other social engineering tools, so that's a good one. Other social engineering tools, Creepy, geolocation finding tool for Twitter, Instagram and Flickr. So you can find out where somebody is based on their tweets or pictures. And it also shows their location. It will automatically bring up Google Maps for you, so you can see on Google Maps where they are. What's their IP? Anybody use what's their IP? No, for good purposes or interest purposes only? No? Okay. What's their IP is quite a good one where basically somebody clicks on a link and you can make the link can do one of a number of things, but my particular favourite is one where it just comes up with a 404, so just like a broken link, and then emails you that person's IP address. So these would be pretty useful tools to just drop into Twitter, wouldn't it? Where people seem to click idly on every link that they see. Yeah, you can harvest quite a lot of information that way, right? Multigo, which is probably the daddy of them all, really. There's some other ones as well. Like when you click on an image, you get a reverse IP address, but that's not really too much different to Creepy. PQ, where basically you can enter some information and you get further information back on Twitter accounts, LinkedIn, YouTube, and other information as well. Multigo, like I say, that's my favourite one, which uses both infrastructure and personal information and can combine the two. To find out the relationships between people, websites, emails. Emails, I think, is always the key one, right? Emails are normally the key to finding out most about a person, particularly when they use their username, to find out the different social media platforms that they're using, etc. So that's the bottom line, isn't it? Really, this is one of my concerns is the fact that okay, there's a lot of super sharp people out there that are writing these tools and that are doing zero-day exploits, but you don't need to. Really, you can cause trouble without doing that, and that from a trying to deal with the problem point of view is an issue. So I'm going to very quickly turbo through GoZeus because I've left myself short of time. So that's what I'm doing now. So GoZeus in summary, it combines both of these things, right? It combines the software vulnerabilities and people vulnerabilities together. This is what makes it such a dangerous piece of software, malware. So it's a banking credential stealing Trojan, also installs crypto locker or ransomware, 100 million stolen worldwide, 15,500 machines infected in the UK. It's designed to defeat two-factor authentication. So, like the pin entry and secure key, you put your card in and then you get your number back and you type that number in as your means of authentication. You've seen that, right? You use that all the time, I guess, in online banking. It's spread by phishing and drive-by downloads. All the methods which I've previously mentioned can be spread by an email from a known contact. It causes the shellcode to be silently downloaded and executes the malware payload as a result of you being infected by it. And what then happens is that the HTML is actually modified before it gets to your browser. So this isn't a case of like you bring up the website and then something happens and add some forms to it. It actually modifies the HTML as it hits your system before it actually reaches your browser. So it injects additional forms in line with the bank. So it's exploiting your trust. It's exploiting your trust with your bank, because what you're seeing is your banking URL there in the window, HTTPS, your green lock symbol, all the rest of it, that makes you think everything's perfectly happy and secure. And then the malware is injecting these forms in line with your bank's own forms, asking for additional authentication, which you type in if you don't know any better. Okay? So this includes the code which you type in as a result of plugging your card in and typing in your PIN and getting that code back, so it's collecting that as well. So it will harvest your login details, your secure key, passwords acquired. It's then communicated through to an infected proxy. So there's a bunch of infected botnets, and some of those are chosen to be proxies, which are going to be used to communicate with the evil server. So your details are sent through to proxy. The proxy communicates with an evil server, which is controlled by the bad guys. The bad guys then use that information to connect through to your bank, enter your account if they so wish. And that money then gets transferred to mules accounts. And these mules can either be people who are intentionally know that what they're doing is illegal but don't care too much because they're making some money out of it, or they can be people who are just dumb and they've fallen for those emails that come through saying work from home and earn this amount of money every week. And they go, okay, yeah, I'll do that, and then don't realise that actually, they then agree to the fact they'll take money and transfer it to another account. To me, it's hard to believe that people wouldn't realise that's illegal, but maybe, from what I hear, some people really don't. And it eventually goes up and ends up in an evil fortunes account. And that evil fortunes account, well, that isn't going to be a real person's account, is it? That's going to be an identity theft. It's been used to create an account, and then somebody's been hired to go and take the money out of the ATM. Probably been set online, on an online bank, so they haven't had to go in with a bunch of forms. And that's how they get the money. It's controlled. It's peer-to-peer now, and it's so we have the transfer that goes from the proxy nodes to the master drop. But one of the ways which you want to subvert this, if you wanted to damage it, would be to break this link in order to prevent communication between the proxy nodes and the master drop server. But the way the algorithm is coded is such that when that happens, it realises it can't connect to the C2C server anymore. CNC server, and it initiates then a domain generating algorithm which creates 1,000 domains every week, and that means that the bad guys then only need to register one of those domains and just wait, right, for people for the machines to connect to it. So in terms of how it was subverted via Tovar, which is the project name for the collaborative project between multiple different countries involved in this. The NCA was, FBI, US Department of Justice, Europol. A bunch of security vendors and academics were responsible for trying to disrupt it. So the initial point was the command and control communications were disrupted. So there was a hard-coded domain in there that was initially tried by the machines to connect to. So as soon as that was broken, which was pretty easy, you just you modify the DNS for that, so instead of it pointing to an IP address that's owned by the bad guys, it points to an IP address that's owned by law enforcement. Pretty simple to do it. But then obviously it realises it's not connecting to its command and control anymore. Okay? So there's encryption that takes place when it connects to its command and control. So there was no way that the people responsible for this were able to make it mimic the actual command and control server. So it knew something, so the algorithm knew something was wrong. Okay, something's wrong. Okay, domain generation algorithm time. So it generated these 1,000 different domains that allowed the bad guys to regain control of it. Except what happened was some time was spent reverse engineering the domain generation algorithm. So we worked out how it generated the 1,000 domains. It was tied in with the clock. So the 1,000 domains that were generated were dependent upon the time of day. And we worked it out. We worked out how to reverse engineer that. And as soon as we did, we could synchron them. All of them. Or block them. Get the ISPs to block them so they couldn't reach them. If they did reach them, then they were subverted to IP addresses that were controlled by law enforcement. The NCA then issued a 2-week warning. I have been told I can't tell you why that is. I know why it was, but I've been told, I don't know why. That's the bit I'm not allowed to tell you. It's not that interesting, actually. I'm sure you can work it out yourself. And that's where it was left. So everything seemed fine. The bad guys didn't do anything after that, up until, like, what are we on today? Yesterday, right, when I heard that it's back, and Malcovery had spotted spam with a zip file containing a new domain generation algorithm and fastplug servers. You know, fastplugs where the IP addresses is rotated through for each domain quickly, which makes it more difficult if you want to sort of block an individual IP address. That's nice, it changed on its own for me. So what can be done? I like out-of-band transaction verification, you know, where you're actually, you know, you're phoned up and contacted to say, is this transaction right? Or even if it's just a text to your phone that you have to agree with, just something that takes it out of bounds from the Mark knows all about this. I'm sure you can make some comments on why that won't work. I said this to a bunch of bankers, and I don't mean that in the Cockney Rhymes sense of the word, although some of them were. I said this to a bunch of bankers, and they all of them shaking their heads, no, no. I don't know why. None of them told me why they can't do that, but they weren't happy about it. But I like that. I mean, I've been phoned up before with you know, mates of a couple of transactions, maybe duplicate ones, and they've said, "Is this right?" And I've said yes. So I like that. So you know, but mainly it's education, isn't it? Stopping people from falling from these mistakes with the phishing and the social engineering stuff that we've talked about. But the computer savvy, you guys, right? You're not the target audience for this message, are you really? But what you can do is you can find people who are. Okay? So an example is, right? Actually, my dad is a perfect example of this. He's a perfect example of this. He's computer savvy enough to do his banking online. He's not computer savvy enough to make sure his system's patched, to make sure his antivirus is up to date. In fact, he rang me up the other day and said something's not working right, my machine's running really slow. So I team viewed it onto his system and I had a look at it, and hundreds of pieces of malware, right? Absolute mess. I said, Dad, we've talked about this, right? What's going on? And he said, oh, I don't know, I think maybe my antivirus has expired. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, I got this message up saying that my antivirus had expired. And I said, well, why didn't you update it? Why didn't you, sort it out? He goes, well, you told me, son. You told me if anything pops up and I didn't know what it was, then I should ignore it. So, but the point I'm making is a real one. The messages that we give can quite easily be confused. They can look mixed. To us, it's obvious, but to others, it's not. And another example of this is there's a residential care home. Now the law enforcement know, because of the mechanisms of how I told you how GoZeus works, of IP addresses of people that have been infected by GoZeus, right? So they know this. And one of the chief instigators, the chief troublemakers in the UK was tracked down. And it was a residential care home. A Windows XP box, so they need arresting. A Windows XP box with 360 variants of malware running on it in this residential care home. 67 ports were open. Pretty much every one of its CPU cycles was being used to process malware. The thing was flat out sweating and producing malware. And you know, it was said to them, oh, what's going on? You know, what's happening here? What's happening to this machine? I don't know, it's just been running there for years. We send the odd email with it, that's about it. Because they don't know, they don't understand it. And that's my point. My point is we've got to be reaching the right people. And we're all preaching to each other, sending messages on Twitter and putting things online. I don't know. What do we need? Maybe an advert in Saga. I don't know. Right? Country life. Let's put that in there. Okay, so that's it. Any questions?